I felt something break inside my chest, before I even understood why. I am the billionaire who decoded the Atlas III prophecy. I whispered the sentence under my breath while standing alone in my Manhattan penthouse. Staring through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the night sky, I stepped closer to the glass. My hands were shaking and I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Atlas III hung above the city, elongated, glowing softly in teal and blue, pulsing like something alive. A comet shouldn't pulse like breath, but this one did. I tried to steady myself by walking to the observatory nook in the corner of the penthouse, where I kept my telescopes and sky-tracking screens. The lights of Manhattan flickered below, but inside, the room felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I felt ashamed without knowing why. I opened my tablet to distract myself, but the screen froze instantly. Every device on the desk lit up with the same exact rhythm. 2 pulses, pause, 2 pulses, pause. My chest tightened. I hadn't seen this pattern since my father's old research notes. The ones he said were not ready for the world. I swallowed hard. Memories I had buried started crawling back. My father insisting the universe had intelligence. Me telling him he was delusional, the argument that ended everything between us. And now here I was, years later, watching the sky behave exactly the way he once predicted. Suddenly my breathing stopped. The air changed. A pressure built behind my eyes, a warning that something was about to hit me deeper than logic. I grabbed the desk for support as heat rose through my chest. Then, it came. I saw a vision of a world that didn't belong to the present. Families walking slowly in soft golden light. Children laughing without fear. People sitting together, hands touching, listening to one another with patience instead of rushing. The air itself felt gentle. It wasn't a dream. It was a future. The vision faded as quickly as it came. I stood trembling, with tears drying on my face. I tried to breathe normally, but something inside me had already shifted. I felt cracked open, exposed, unable to hide behind money or composure. For the first time in years, I felt human. Suddenly the lights in the penthouse went out. Every screen, every lamp. Total silence. Only the glow of Atlas III remained through the glass. And then my tablet turned back on by itself. A single file appeared. No name, just a blinking icon. My pulse spiked. I tapped it. The screen went white, then displayed a set of coordinates. I knew them instantly. A place tied to a memory I had spent most of my adult life avoiding. The moment I saw it, my stomach dropped. I stared at the blinking coordinates, unable to move. They weren't random. They weren't a glitch. They were a message, directed at me. A call from whatever was behind Atlas III, asking me to go back to the place I had sworn never to return to. I left the penthouse before sunrise, still shaken by the coordinates Atlas III I had imprinted on my tablet. The numbers kept looping in my mind, steady and undeniable. I didn't know why the comet wanted me to go there, but the feeling was so strong it was almost physical. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I sat in the back of my black limousine as it pulled away from the building. The city was dark and quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens right before dawn. My hands were cold even though the heater was on high. I kept staring at the tablet, its screen glowing softly with the same coordinates. The message hadn't changed. Halfway across the bridge, something in my chest tightened. Not fear, not excitement, something heavier. I recognized the address. It wasn't a random point on the map. It was tied to a part of my past that I had spent years refusing to revisit. My childhood library. The place I had stopped going to after one night I still couldn't talk about. Suddenly I wanted to turn back. I even opened my mouth to tell the driver to return home. But I couldn't. Something deeper than logic kept pulling me forward. The same pull I felt when the message first appeared in my penthouse. The same recognition I tried to ignore last night. When I stepped out of the limousine, the street felt too quiet for this hour. The small residential neighborhood looked exactly the same as when I was a teenager. Same trees, same cracked sidewalks, same warm yellow streetlights. But being there made my stomach twist. I hadn't walked this block in almost 20 years. The library door creaked when I pushed it open. The air inside smelled like old paper and dust. The lights were dim. Only a few lamps near the front desk were on. I took a slow breath and felt something old press against my chest. Something I had buried. I walked past the narrow aisles, running my fingers along the bookshelves. Then it hit me, a memory I never expected the comet to bring back. I saw myself at 13, sitting alone at the back table, clutching a notebook full of drawings. I had shown them to my father that night. He barely glanced at them before saying, "Books are for learning, not dreaming." Something inside me shut down that evening. My throat tightened. I wasn't angry at him. I was angry at how quickly I believed him. Angry at how easily I let go of parts of myself just to be who he expected. Maybe that was why I built everything I did to fill the spaces where dreams used to live. But the comet was opening those spaces again, piece by piece. I reached the back table. It looked exactly the same. Old wood, scratched surface, a single lamp. I placed the tablet on it. The screen flickered as soon as it touched the surface, once, twice, then stabilized. My pulse quickened. Something was happening. The coordinates disappeared and were replaced by a single, slow-moving pattern, a circular motion. Expanding, contracting, almost like breathing. I leaned closer. My hands trembled. The pattern wasn't telling me where to go next. It was telling me to feel something, to remember something. And then it hit me quietly, without drama, a thought so simple it felt like truth breaking open inside my chest. I don't want to keep living closed off. Not as defense, not as habit, not as a legacy I never chose. For the first time in years, I felt the sharp sting of wanting to change. My breath stopped for a moment. A soft warmth spread through my chest. No voice spoke. No screen flashed. No symbol appeared. But the meaning was unmistakable. The next step wasn't a place on a map. It was a direction inside me, a pull, gentle but firm, pointing outward toward something waiting beyond this old building. A quiet, undeniable certainty formed in me. I needed to go. I didn't know where yet, but I knew the moment would come. I left the childhood library before the sun had fully risen. The air outside felt softer than it should have, almost like the world was giving me space to breathe for the first time in years. I drove alone this time, no pilot, no driver, following the inner pull that had tightened in my chest at the end of the last. It wasn't fear anymore. It wasn't even confusion. It was direction. A quiet one. The coordinates from the night before didn't reappear on the tablet, but the memory of them lived inside me with a precision I couldn't explain. Every turn felt obvious. Every mile felt intentional. When the last paved road disappeared and the landscape opened into a wide stretch of untouched nature, I knew I was close. Atlas III I hung low over the horizon, glowing through the morning haze like it had been waiting for me to arrive. I stepped out of the car slowly, my shoes sinking into soft grass still wet from dawn. For a long moment, I didn't move. I just stood there, letting the silence wrap around me. Something in my chest loosened. It felt strange and warm, like the beginning of forgiveness. But I didn't know who I was forgiving yet. Myself, maybe. Later that morning, I walked toward a ridge overlooking a wide valley. The sky was pale blue, the air clean and cold, and the comet pulsed above me in its slow, steady rhythm. The sound wasn't audible, but I felt it, a pressure, a wave, a heartbeat syncing with mine in a way that made my throat tighten. I didn't understand the science behind it, but for once, I didn't try to. Suddenly my hands tingled, and heat rushed through my chest. It was the same precursor to the vision I had seen in the penthouse, the same warning that something larger was arriving. I stood perfectly still, my breath faltered. My eyes blurred for half a second, and then the valley dissolved. I saw the future again, but clearer. This time I stood on a long wooden walkway near calm water. People walked slowly beside me, speaking softly, touching each other's arms with tenderness that didn't feel exaggerated, only natural. Children played without fear, smiling at strangers as if everyone belonged to everyone. The world felt lighter, as if gravity itself had changed. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't destruction. This was maturity. Humanity finally waking up. Then I saw him again, the older version of myself. Barefoot, calm, his shoulders relaxed, his eyes soft. He wasn't a man who pushed people away anymore. He wasn't hiding behind power or control. He looked free. For the first time, I didn't feel threatened by him. I felt called by him. The vision faded gently, as if it didn't want to leave me too fast. The valley returned. The wind brushed past my face. My heartbeat steadied. Something inside me, some old resistance I had carried since childhood, cracked open. The world didn't feel hostile. It felt honest. And I felt honest inside it. I sat on a large flat rock at the top of the ridge and let everything settle. I remembered every cold room I had walked through, Every conversation where I pretended not to care. Every person I kept at a distance because I was terrified of needing anyone. That fear wasn't gone yet, but it wasn't driving me anymore. Something softer had taken its place. I'm ready, I whispered, not sure who I was speaking to. Myself. The future. The universe. All of them, maybe. Atlas 3I pulsed once. Slower, deeper, like acknowledgement. Then I felt it, not outside, but inside. A pull. An intuition. A next step forming without words. My chest warmed, spreading heat to my shoulders, my face, my hands. I wasn't being told what to do. I was being shown who I already was, beneath everything I had built to protect myself. I stood slowly, grounding my feet in the grass. I removed my jacket, rolled up my sleeves, and let the mountain air hit my skin. For the first time in years, I felt unarmored and not afraid. When I looked at the ridge ahead, the path seemed to glow. Not literally, emotionally. Like a direction I had avoided was finally becoming visible. I took one step toward it, then another. That was when I heard the sound. Not behind me, not around me, but inside me. A steady clarity rising like a voice made of memory and vision and possibility. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't fear. It was myself, the future me, speaking with a calm certainty I had never known. It's time. My chest lifted. My eyes burned. And for the first time in my life, I didn't run from where I was being led. I walked toward the path. Toward the man I was becoming.